I want us to take a look at modules in this particular video, and we're going to just basically take a look at that in a few categories. We should be able to look at built-in modules in Python. That is the modules that actually come specifically with Python. Okay, once you install Python, you automatically install those modules within your Python installation. And after that, we should be able to see how is it that we can actually create our own modules and then be able to specifically import them into our working environment. And then we should also take a look on how we can actually use aliases on Python. Okay, maybe the name of the module that you want to use that you imported is actually too long, and then you want to use something like aliases on it. Okay, so then you see how actually this is actually done as we move along. And then after that, we're going to take a look at this the double underscore name or double underscore variable, and this is just basically called the dunder names. Okay, so it simply means the double underscore names. All right, we're going to take a look at that. And before we actually kick on with taking a look at this part, we want to take a look at what is even a module in Python. So when we talk about a module in Python, it's simply a file that contains a Python code, just as simple as that. And then it allows you to organize your code logically and then reuse it across different pages. And the thing that it can actually contain that particular file, which is actually a module, it can contain something like functions, it can contain variables, and a number of other things. Okay. And basically, why should we like use modules, right? We want to take a look at why should one even care about using modules. And the few examples that I can actually give you right now is just three right here. Okay, so we can think of using modules for reusability. You can actually, with that, it means that you can actually write your code once and then make use of it multiple times. Okay, so that's just one of the things that modules actually bring in handy when you are writing code in Python. Another one is actually called the organization. Okay, so with this, we can actually keep our code clean and neat and then even manageable. Okay, so if someone is actually going to be making use of your code in the future, they should be able to, with the help of a modules anyway, you discover that your code is a lot more organized and then neat for them to really understand that, especially if you also like document your code very well. All right, and another one that we actually also want to talk about is the built-in functionality. Okay, so it has a built-in functionality. So Python comes with many pre-built-in modules like we just mentioned, and then I think we'll have something like basically we have the one that is actually called a math. We'll have math, and we'll have something like we also have OS module, and we have something like a random, just a number of modules like that. Okay, so that is just that, guys. And the one we are basically, maybe we're going to actually pick this one and then take a look at that, and you can just research on this tool that we have in here, and then a number of other ones that we haven't actually mentioned right here. So without wasting more time, what I want to do right now is that I want us to like go ahead and then try to write an example based on the things that we have actually talked about, right? So that's just the next thing I want to do, because if we're just talking about modules this way and then we're not writing in the lines of code, it may be hard to kind of understand them. So let's try to do that right now. All right, so to do that is really very simple. What I want to do right now, I think I have all of these things that are here already commented out. What I want to do right now is that I want us to take a look at this particular module right here, which is actually called the math module. And what I want to do is within this place right here, remember that I have actually created a file that I call the built-in modules.py. You can create your own built_in_modules.py. You can call your own whatever you want to call that. All right, so for us to like experiment with the math module right here is very simple. What we want to do first of all is to import this. All right, and remember we say that modules are just are simply a file that contains some lines of your code. Remember, but we did not actually write this one, so we talked about built-in modules that are actually coming from that of the Python, right? And this is just an example. So this is one of them. We want to experiment with how we can actually use this particular file right here. Okay, so it actually comes with your Python installation. So to do that, I mean, to import a module in Python, we use the keyword called the import, and then we'll mention the module name. So in our own case, this one is actually called the math. All right, so we do import math right there. All right, so we can go ahead and then we can maybe put a comment in here and just say something like import math module. All right, so that's just basically what that line is actually doing for us. And then down here, what we basically want to do is to go ahead and then see maybe we can actually run something like a square root. We can find the square root of a particular number within this page right here. All right, so we have that imported from here to this place. But then if we get down here, let's say we want to print out out, let's say we want to print out the square root of particular number. And to do that, we can just do print, use print function in here, and we're going to just do math, and we're going to do dot. Let's say we want to find the square root, so we're going to do sqrt right there, pass in your bracket, and we can go ahead, maybe the square root of 16, which is just basically going to be, this is basically going to be 5, right? I mean 4, right? So let's say something like output is actually going to be, let's say 4, like that. And to do that is, let's save these changes, and then if we run this code, I want to run that. And if you look down here, you're going to see that we do have a 4 right here. Okay, so we can put a message in here and just say the answer is, and that's just basically going to go ahead and then show us the answer. So I want to run this again, and you see where it says the answer is 4 right there. Okay, so you can alternatively type whatever you want here. You can say the square root of 16 is whatever that could actually be, right? So with that, we'll be able to import the math module from that of the Python, and then we are trying to print that out right here, and we're trying to make use of this particular method, and there this particular function called the sqrt, which is actually a function. So there's also another one that is actually called a pi. If you want to make use of that, we can do that. Let me just go ahead and then comment this line out. So to comment that line out, I'm going to just do this. Let's basically copy from here to this particular place, and what I want to do with this one is that instead of making use of square root in here, what I basically want to make use of right now is actually going to be pi, right? So to do that, let's change this from what it is now to pi. So it's going to be pi, and with pi, we do not actually need to pass any number right here. All right. So with this, we can, let's just basically change the message in here, and just say something like the value of pi is something of this particular nature right here, right? And to do that, let's just go ahead and then save the changes, and then if we hit on run right here, you're going to see that the value of pi is actually this particular number right here. Okay, so that's just basically how that is actually working, and it's really very simple, right? All right. So this is we are just basically assuming that this is just a file that resides somewhere. Okay, we're gonna later in the tutorial be able to create our own file instead of just making use of an inbuilt module like this. Okay, but for now, let's just keep on moving. So what I want to do next is to show you guys how you can go ahead and then import a specific module. Let's say, for instance, we want to import something like pi, and then leave out something like let's say this particular square root. And if you want to do that, it's really very simple. So what you need to do, let me cut this line out and then put it down here. Or let me just leave this thing here. Okay, so that's just fine. Let's put that in here, and let's move these ones up a little bit. So we're focusing on this particular line right here, right? So what I basically want to do right now is very, very simple. I want to import a specific module from that of the Python, and what I want to basically import is actually embedded in this math, but then I don't want everything that is actually coming from this. Remember that the way we did this before now, we were able to run these two lines is just because we imported everything that is inside of that math module. But let's say, for instance, we only want something like the pi, right? We want to import only that of the pi. So how do we do that? It's really very simple. We can just say something like from math. I'm going to take this away from math, import, and maybe basically we'll just want to import that of the pi into this particular place, and then we can save the changes. We're going to notice something right here. So if I copy this line and let's get down here, and then we run this right here, you're going to notice something. We're basically going to get okay, we do have an error. Let me just check why that is doing that. All right, so I think all right, so this is where the error. Okay, we do not actually need this right here, so we can just simply remove this math right here, because what we're basically doing right now is that we're only importing this particular thing from the math. However, we can actually go ahead with using this pi, and then it will give us our result. So if we save the changes and hit on run, you see that we do get the result right here. All right, so we now have access to only this, but we do not actually have access to any other thing within this particular math module. And if you want me to prove that, if I copy this particular line in here, and remember what that line is actually doing, it's just basically trying to show us the square root of 16, right? And let's say we'll save the changes right here, and I want to comment this particular line out. I think we do not actually need this one anymore for now. So if I comment this and save the changes, and let's take away the math right here, and let's save the changes, guys. And if we go ahead and then we'll run this code right here, you're going to notice that we do have an error right here. So we do not actually have access to that particular thing in here, right? And even if we bring back the math right there, and I will try to run that code, we're still going to get the same error, right? So you see that? So we're not going to need, well, we are basically going to take away this math. That's the first thing. And then I want you to recognize the fact that we do not actually have access to this. That's why we're having this error, right? And if you want us to like make use of that right now, let's bring in this square root right here. So we're going to introduce a command here, and then we're going to go ahead and then I'm going to copy this and then put this right here and then save the changes. You see that if we run the code right here, you see that we do get the answer right here. Look at it right here. So the answer is actually 4 because the square root of this is actually 4. So that's just basically how we can actually import a specific module, okay, into our working environment. All right. So if you want everything that is inside of the math module, we're not going to actually do it this way. We're going to just do it the way we did it earlier before now. And that just basically by taking this away, we can basically change this to, we can just say something like, let's say this is going to be, I already showed you guys this from before now. So we just do import math like that. So that line alone should allow you to run both this line and this particular line that we're having here. Okay, so you don't have to like specifically import them differently, right? So that's just what that is. And of course, if you do that, you are going to basically need to make use of the math objects. So I'm going to do math right here and also do math like that, and then save the changes for run it. Everything should just work fine right now. All right, so that's just basically what that is, and I hope that you guys kind of capture that. And let's move on to the next thing. So what I want us to do right now is to create our own personal modules and be able to use it, right? So to do that, let me close this and I want to create a new file for this. So this is going to be new, and let's create a new Python file, and let's say something like let's say we're going to just call it personal module, and let's open that up. So we do have personal module right here. So what I basically want us to do right now is to be able to create our own code in here, and then we should be able to import this into a different file and then be able to go ahead and then have access to whatever code that we have on this particular place. To do that, I'm actually going to create a function right here, and it's just basically going to be let's say something like say hello, and within this particular function, I'm going to just pass a name parameter into this particular place right here, introduce my colons in there, and down here I'm going to just basically return. And what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to just pass in my formatted string in here, and I'm going to just basically say something like, let's say hello. So this is going to be hello, and we can throw in our curly brackets in here, and then we'll bring in that name parameter up there. All right, so we have that in there, and I'm going to, let's say we also want to create another function in here. So let's just, it's going to be two functions in here, and let's say the second one is actually going to be something like, let's say goodbye or something of that sort nature. Okay, so this is going to be goodbye, and we do have the name in here, and after we have the name, we'll basically also have this is a formatted string right here. So we have this f literal within this particular place in here. So what I want to do right now is let's change the message in here to something like goodbye. So this is going to be goodbye. All right, so this is it, guys. So we do have our own personal module right here, just little module. And what we want to do right now is we want to create another file and then see how we can actually include this or import this into that particular place and be able to make use all of the functions that we have in here. So we do have two functions in here. So to do that, I'm going to just go ahead and create a new file in here, and let's go to new, and I'm going to just basically go ahead and say this is going to be output. Let's call this output, or whatever you just basically want to call that. Maybe something like result of the module or whatever you want to call that. Okay, so the result of the module right here, what we want to do first of all is we want to go ahead and then import this particular file in here. And to do that, we're going to just do import, and this is going to be, make sure you type that correctly, this is going to be the personal module which you have just created, this particular name in here. All right, so that is just what it is right now, and you don't even need to maybe pass something like .py to be able to grab onto that. Okay, so if you just include the name, if you just say import and then you go ahead and say personal module, we can down here begin to make use of these functions that we have in here. And let's say, for instance, we want to say something like, we want to say hello to someone right here. We want to make use of this particular function in here. So within our results here, what we want to do is really very simple. Let's use the print command in here. So this is going to be print. And if we go get into our print, we want to go ahead and then make use of, this is going to be personal. We're going to just say personal module right here. And this is going to be dot. And this is going to be, we're going to just basically say dot. They say hello, which is a function that is actually present on this particular place, right? So that is just that. And you see where it says something like one usage. Okay, so it's a kind of a records that, and that just a kind of a shows that we're actually on the right path. And within here, right here, we can go ahead and then say the name of the person that we basically want to greet right here. Okay, so let's say that this is going to be David. So we're going to just greet David. So this is going to be, let's say David right here. All right. So if we save the changes right here, and I will try to run this code within this place, we're going to say okay, we need to right click on here and then say run results. and then you see where they say something like hello David, right? And if you want to make use of the second one right here, we say something about goodbye, we can also do that. So I'm going to just copy this onto the next line, and what I'm going to do is to grab onto this function in here, which is actually called a goodbye. I think I have that already copied, and let's change this right here, and let's save the changes. Let's say this time around is going to be James. We're going to say goodbye to James, and let's say if we run this right here, right, I think we do have an error right here. So if you check that, you notice that we do have, okay, we do have a double this right here. So we need to take away one in here. If you save the changes and then run that again, that error should disappear by now. Then we see where we have goodbye James, right? So you see how we're able to create a function within this particular place, and then we're able to make use of that, right? First of all, we're able to import that particular file, and that's a kind of a validate definition of that of the modules, which we talked about, that is just simply a file that contains a Python code. And the code that it could contain could be something like a function, it could be variables, or whatever lines of a code that could be within that of the Python, okay, for you to be able to use it. All right, so we're able to like specifically be able to create the Python module right here, and then we are trying to make use of it right here, okay? But first of all, we have to import that and then begin to make use of it. So if you have a code that you are basically going to be making use of it at multiple times in your page, it's a good practice to like create that as a module, and you can actually import that at the top of your script and then begin to make use of them, okay? So that you don't have to like write the same code too many times, okay? So this helps in what we call the reusability, right? So we mentioned that earlier in this tutorial. All right, so let's add some more examples right here. What I want to do down here, I want to add some more examples in here, and I want to like kind of try to perform some mathematical function in here. So this is going to be def, and what I want to do is to be able to see how is it that one can actually add two numbers, and we should be able to print out the result within our results script right here. Okay, so this is going to be a comma b right here, and we do have that right here, right? So we do have a comma b in this particular place as a function in here. So down here we just basically want to return, so let's say this is going to be addition, right? And if we are going to actually have an addition, we're going to just do a plus b right here, and with that line alone we should be able to get the addition right there. And another one I basically want to add is actually going to be for subtraction. So if I do def right here, and I'm going to do subtraction right here, and let's say subtract instead of a subtraction, right? So this is going to be subtract, and what do you want to do with the subtract right here? So this is just basically a function. So let's throw in a comma b in here, let's throw in our colon, and then down here we can return. So this is going to be return, and basically what we want to return is going to be a minus b, like that. And with that line you should be able to get the subtraction result. So now if we want to make use of this right here, if you take a look into this particular place right here, we already imported the module right here, and I basically would like to, let's say I'm going to comment out these two lines so that you guys will not be confused. So let's comment out these two lines in here, so that is just that. And then down here, let's say I want to print out the result right here, and to do that I'm going to just basically say print. So let's copy this and then put that on the next line in there, and I'm going to just do within this particular place, I think what I basically want to do is, instead of making use of a goodbye that we have in here, I'm going to just do add. And what do I basically want to add? I want to add two numbers. So let's say this is going to be 2 comma, let's say 5 right here, right? And that should just be able to give us the result that we want, right? So let's save the changes in here, and then I want to go ahead and then run this line. So if we add these two lines, this is just basically going to give us 8, right? So let's go ahead and then right click on that and then say run results, and down here we do have 8 within this particular place. So if you want to experiment with the next one, maybe the subtraction, this time around we're going to do, let's change this to, this is going to be 10. I'm going to change this to 10 and save the changes, and then if we run this again, we see that what do I do? What did I do? Okay, well, we need to change this from what it is right now. So let's copy the subtraction right here. I want to change that to subtract right here. All right, so if we save the changes and then run that again, we should be able to get 5 as the result, right? So that's just basically what that is. All right, so we've been able to import a specific module. We've been able to also import the main module from that of the Python, and then also we have also been able to create our own Python module and then import it. I want us to take this a little bit step further. What I want to do right now is to be able to import a module with that of the aliases, and it's really very simple. All right, so I want to close this out right here. All right, so for aliases right now, we do have this particular import right here. We're basically importing, I want to open up our second file right here. We're just basically importing this right into this particular place right here. So let's say that this name right here is too long. We don't want to be making use of that in this particular place. All right, so we can actually use as keyword right here. So this is going to be as, let's say this is going to be PM, and what this simply stands for, personal module, right? So that's just what that is. So it means that we can actually begin to make use of this PM right here instead of making use of for this long name that is actually here right now. And I'm going to take this away and paste this. So if we save the changes right here and then we'll run the code, you see that we still get the same result, right? We still get the same result. We do not have any errors right here. So if we're using PM right here just for us to test whether what I just did right here is working or not. If I change this to something like PN right here, and then change this to PN right here, and then save the changes, if we try to run this, we'll get an error, right? So we do have an error right here. So this is just a proof that what we're actually doing is actually working right here. So we are basically instructing the script to make use of this PM right here instead of making this long name that we do have right here. Okay, so that's just what it means to make use of aliases, and that is just that, guys. So in the next one, what we're going to basically do is to take a look at the double underscore name, right, which is the Donda name right there, which is a double underscore name. So let's take a look at that shortly, guys. Now the next thing that I want us to take a look at now is going to be this the double underscore variable right here. This is the next topic I want us to take a look at, and I want to create a new file for that. So if we go in here, I want to create a new file, Python file of course, and I want to create a new file for that right here. This is, let's just call this Donda, and let's open that up. So this is the double underscore, and I want to experiment with that. Okay, so when we talk about the double underscore name, double underscore variable, so what does this actually even mean? So every Python module actually has a built-in attribute called a double underscore name, double underscore, and when a module is actually run directory, it's this particular double underscore that we're actually talking about right here is actually set to something like double underscore main double underscore, and if the module is actually imported elsewhere, you are going to notice that that particular double underscore name is actually set to the module's name instead of setting it to something like a double underscore like this, instead of setting it to double underscore main if you're actually running it from the same page. Okay, so it's going to be set to the what is it called, the module name instead, right? So what I mean by this is really very simple. I want to create an example right here on this particular page. Okay, and why is this even important? So this is going to actually allow you to define code that should only run when the module is actually executed directly, not when it's actually imported. All right, so that is just the importance behind what we are actually talking about, which is the double underscore. And let's create an example right here. I want to just do dev, and maybe we should just call it something like quit. And then within this particular page now, I want to just, let's print out a message in here and just say something like, maybe this is actually going to be hello from, let's say we're going to call it this particular name from Donda. It's going to be from Donda.py, something of that nature. Okay, so this means that we're just basically trying to reference to what is actually within this particular page, right? So down here, I'm going to do an if statement right here. So it's going to be if, let's say, double underscore name right here, double underscore is equal to, this is, remember this is double equal to right here. If it's actually equal to, let's say this time around, we're going to just have double underscore main, double underscore, and if it's actually equal to that, what do you basically want to do, right? So we can go ahead and then within this page, maybe we could call this particular function that we have in here, and I'm going to notice that that is actually going to run. So I want to call that function down there, and with that, you see we have one usage already. So if we save the changes right here, and then let's try to right click on this and then run Donda, you see that we have a hello from Donda, which is this particular message right here. All right, but in a situation where what I want to do right now, let me create a new file right here and say something like new Donda results for the Donda. I'm going to just simply call that results underscore Donda. You should just basically try to call this whatever that is really important to you guys. So I'm just naming this anyhow that I just feel like. All right, so let's say for instance we want to import this Donda into this particular page. So if we do imports right here, let's type import correctly. So this is going to be imports, and we want to basically import this particular file called Donda. So this is going to be Donda, and with that line we've actually imported Donda. So down here, for instance, if we go in here and then copy this particular function in here, let's go back in here And let's try to paste this right here. You may be thinking that this is actually going to be able to print out this kind of a message that we'll have down here, but we're actually going to have an error, right? So if I right click on this and then hit on this, you see that we do have an error right here. So if you read the error very well, the error message, you see that we do have a traceable error right here. Then it's actually pointing at this particular place, right? So that's just what it means. So if you want to like be able to access what is actually on this particular page right here, you can go ahead and then you may have to mention the module name before you go ahead and make use of this particular function right here. So for that reason, if we do dot and then we'll save the changes right here, this should be able to like print out the result for us. So if I run on this right here, you see that we do not actually have any error right here. You see that it runs just fine. So if you change the message here, I want to take away .py, that should be able to allow you find out the difference. So if I hit in here, you see that it runs, right? We have a hello from Donda right here. So that's just basically what that is actually means. So you have to like explicitly go ahead and then call this this particular module right here within the next file that you're actually going to create for to make sure that this actually run, right? But if you're actually going to run this on the same file on the same module, you don't even need to do that. Okay, so as long as the underscore name is actually going to be set to the main right here. So if you're making use of this particular approach, it's going to actually set this particular underscore name to underscore main, and your code is just going to basically run just fine, right? So the only situation where you should be able to use this is when you really need your module to actually be executed. All right, if you want it to like run directly, you can make use of this particular type of module that we have actually created, right? If you want to do that, if you want to make use of this in a situation where you want your code to like run directly, you can actually use this. Okay, but in some situation you may want the module to be executed before the code can actually run. That's when you have to like approach it with this particular pattern that we used right here, this particular pattern that we have actually used. So I don't know whether you guys kind of get that. All right, so in this case, I just want you like to think of a situation where you should just possibly be able to use this, and I can also just help you with just saying that this is actually only useful because it kind of allows you to define code that should only run when the module is executed directly, okay, not when it's actually imported. So that's just what I can actually tell you guys right now. So, and I hope that you guys kind of enjoy the tutorial. So if you like it, then thanks, and I think maybe I'll see you guys in the next one. And feel free to like the video if you like it, and then if you want to follow me, that's just fine, and if not, that's still fine. So see you in the next one, guys. Bye bye for now.